At Wind River Resort and Casino, we like to celebrate life's little moments. Oh, and the big ones too, because around here, when you're completely in the moment, that's when the magic happens. Come in and find your moment at Wind River Resort and Casino.
Happy Sunday morning to you. I'm Chief Meteorologist Mike Krueger. I'm in for Chase Wilson this morning, and I thought, you know what? This is the first rain we've seen in a while. Some of you might be paying attention, may have some questions, and what to expect today. We've been hearing about an atmospheric river today. We're going to get into more detail on that a little bit later. The impacts it'll have, and we're talking about a lot more rainfall for some than others. It just depends on where you are. So in many people's minds, atmospheric river is typically associated with flooding and a ton of rainfall, but that's not really going to be the case with this one, but we'll get into that here a little bit later. This morning, there's actually been a little bit of rain in the Redding area and the surrounding areas around Redding, and even to the north and west of that, Trinity County, Siskiyou, Del Norte, and Humboldt counties. These are just some initial pulses that are in advance of the main band of rain that'll be pushing through later on this morning into the afternoon. Flood advisory, well, did that expire? Interesting. I wonder if that was allowed to expire. No, it's just not showing up on my map here for some strange reason. But there is a flood advisory. Again, I don't know why it's not showing up on the map. But basically, it's the area in western Del Norte County, including the coast and Crescent City. Now, there's a potential for flooding in low-lying and poor drainage areas. We're going to get into that a little bit later, but we're also going to talk about a winter weather advisory that yesterday afternoon, the National Weather Service issued this, but it won't take effect until tomorrow night through Wednesday. Snow levels are going to be very high today, folks, to the point that the ski park will probably see rain, and they've actually closed the park here for today. Got a couple of people checking in. Good morning from Jackie Dixon from Trinidad. Thank you for checking in this morning. You've also got Jerry Smith-Bell. And of course, Jackie's also been saying it's been rain light most of the night. It's been light rain, that is, most of the night. Thank you, Jackie, for the report there. And we're not talking rain right now. We're talking snow. Yeah, the potential for snow, that winter weather advisory. Snow levels, like I said, are starting off fairly high, but they will be dropping as we go into Tuesday and Wednesday. All right, so let's go into your Krueger's Quick Cast. So for those of you that have a short attention span, we're just going to go into the forecast for today and what you can expect. But overall, take a look at that Sunday, February 8th. Yes, a special edition of Coffee with Krueger this morning. Temperatures in the mid to upper 40s right now in the valley, so it's mild. I mean, look at the higher elevations. Susanville, 32, but that's just because we're starting to see the clouds move in, but it's mild even for most of the mountains, generally in the 40s. Some of the cooler spots like Chester at about 35 degrees. So out the door this morning, mainly cloudy skies for the valley. There may be some passing showers or sprinkles. We've already seen some of that in the Redding area. We're going to be looking at showers for Trinity, North Coast, Siskiyou County, and then eventually Modoc County getting in on that, and the eastern mountains as well, especially later today. So there you can see that line of clouds coming in from the southwest, from Hawaii, working its way into the Pacific Northwest. That's where the bulk of the rain is right now, but that will all be shifting southward over us, and we'll be looking at that rain. There you can see, of course, we are looking at that rain this morning. This is the HRRR forecast model. So this is a different model we'll looking at than the one we'll see in the deeper dive, but this is kind of the overall pattern here. Midday, most of the rain still north and west of the valley. Siskiyou, Trinity, Del Norte, Humboldt, all seeing that rain, and moderate to even heavy rain at times, especially for Del Norte County. Then by mid-afternoon, Redding, maybe Red Bluff getting in on the rain, as well as Bernie and Modoc County. But look at Lass and Plumas counties and south towards Red Bluff, Oroville. Still not much in the way of rain at this point. Then we go into the late afternoon, Red Bluff. But look at Corning, Chico, Willows, and Oroville. You see how it's really not picking up a lot of rainfall? Some of that may come in by this evening and tonight, and then pushing eastward over the mountains this evening and tonight as well. And there you can see the rainfall estimates coming in from our in-house model at least. It's not even picking up any rain at all. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I think we'll see about a 1/10 of an inch of rainfall for the Redding area, give or take, and then less as you head south in the valley. I also think it's underplaying the rain we're going to see in Crescent City. I think Crescent City could see 1 to even possibly over 2 inches of rain, hence the flood advisory we have in that area. 0.2 in Alturas, 0.05 in Susanville, and only about 1,100. And that's only just for today. So, Mount Shasta Ski Park. In fact, as I was recording my 6 o'clock in the morning update, I did not know at that point that Ski Park had closed. But they had closed for today. 0 trails open, right, because they're closed. Last report, 19 inches at the top of Douglas. It's just getting worse and worse. Road conditions right now, clear. But there is some hope for the ski park and for those of you that want snow, at least in the mountains. Of course, you can see no snow today. Maybe the upper parts of the ski park may see some snow. But it's mainly going to be in the form of rain, which rain melts snow. So any snow that they have up there, unfortunately, a lot of it is going to go away. But look at this. Tuesday, Wednesday. Now, you'll notice it's not a ton of snow. Yes, the summit of Mount Shasta looking at several feet of snow. But the Mount Shasta Ski Park at this point may be 6-10 inches. And it may be more than that. We'll see. But this is the hope that we're seeing here. They had mentioned in their announcement that they're hoping for more snow next week. And next weekend, actually, looks like more snow. So look at this. This is something we haven't been able to show in a while, too. We've got chances for rain off and on, starting today, all the way through and into next weekend. Monday, Thursday, even Friday, the best chances for a break. So today, we got low 60s, low to mid 60s in the valley. There's that chance for rain. Rain for everybody. Now, it's going to start, the heaviest rainfall starts on the coast, and then it works its way eastward. So mid to late afternoon, into the evening, the valley, and then eventually late afternoon, evening for Lassen and Plumas counties. Again, timing of all that just depends on where you are. So tonight, temperatures upper 30s, low 40s in the valley, 20s, 30s for the higher elevations tonight, and looks like in the low 40s for those of you along the coast. Now keep in mind, although you see that 29 and 8 and you're like, oh, there's going to be snow. No, because the rain and snow will be gone by then. So here's your 7-day outlook for the valley. Off and on chances for rain through the weekend. Best chances for a break will be Monday, Thursday, and then again most of the day on Friday. Same thing for the coast. You've got snow levels too in there. 4,500 feet by Tuesday, 4,000 feet by Wednesday, and 2,500 feet. Yes, 2,500 feet by next weekend. This is good news for the ski park. So there you can see as we go into Mount Shasta, Alturas, Susanville, 4,000, 4,500 feet Tuesday, Wednesday, and about 3,000 feet for those locations by next weekend. So yes, Mount Shasta Ski Park, but even Mount Shasta City may even see a little bit of snow by next weekend. Isn't that nice? Yes, it's winter. It still is winter. Hard to believe it's been winter for the last several weeks, but it is. We had a bit of a false spring, right? It's been kind of fooling some of our flowers too. Main Street, Chico, Highway 32. Of course, we're not seeing the typical morning traffic as we'd see on Coffee with Krueger because it's Sunday, so not a lot of people out there on the roads. But it is dry this morning out south in the Chico area. You can see I-5 in Red Bluff. It is dry there as well, but we do have the overcast skies, and we're going to keep it mostly cloudy here through the day today. It's been a little wet in the Redding area. There was a brief light shower that passed through. We may see more sprinkles, light showers through the morning. There's a look at Sutter Buttes. Typically, we look at that to see if there's any fog, but fog is not necessarily going to be the big headline for today. There's the wet weather we are seeing in Crescent City already, seeing some of that wet weather there, seeing some light showers, nothing terribly heavy at this point. This is Bald Hill West, looking down at Hoopa. There you can see some of the showers you can see there, so a little wet out in the inland areas and some of those inland valleys as well. This is looking at Soda Ridge. I believe that might be Mount Shasta off in the distance, covered in clouds. And there you can see Fort Jones. Looks a little wet out there this morning. You've got those overcast skies as well. And looking out at Lassen Park, of course, there's no rain, no snow at this point. And some of the snow has melted, as you can kind of see, something kind of poking out of the snow there, off in the foreground there. And really no snow on the trees there, but that is going to change, possibly even by today. All right, so let's take a look at our weather headlines. Today is the transition day back to cooler, unsettled weather. We're seeing that today. Snow levels are going to start off fairly high. 6,000 if you're lucky, but mainly above that. Off and on rain through all of next week. Yeah, we're talking about a typical cool and unsettled weather pattern next week. And snow levels will be dropping next week as well. So we're going to get into all of that in our deeper dive forecast, sponsored by Shasta Hearing Aids.
Hearing isn't just about sound, it's about being part of every moment. This isn't your grandparents' hearing aid, it's a smart hearing aid for modern life. It's Bluetooth enabled, easy to control from your phone with your personal prescription, delivering the clarity you need. All that technology at half the cost of competitors, so you never miss a moment worth hearing. With our Here For You program, you get personal care and support every step of the way. This is what quality care sounds like.
All right, we're going to get into that deeper dive. First, I want to address, hey, if you have any questions, maybe you're concerned about next week with the snow, maybe you're traveling, whatever. If you have any questions, put them in the comments now. I'll be able to see them when I'm done with my deep dive forecast here, and we'll begin to address some of those questions. But that being said, too, maybe some of your questions will be answered as you watch the deeper dive. So let's get you right into it. So the radar, yeah, we've seen some rain last night, and as we got from Jackie out in Trinidad, saying it's been kind of light rain off and on throughout the night, so no big surprises there. You can see that. We did see a brief shower move through the north end of the valley. You can see right there. Now it's off to the east, looks like making its way into the foothills, and of course there's Lassen Park. May start to see some of that snow out on the peak of Lassen. Meanwhile, you can still see some of these little impulses coming on through. So if we see more sprinkles and even some light showers this morning for the north end of the valley through the next couple of hours, don't be surprised. But we're going to see the heavier rainfall begin to kick in later this morning and midday for the coast. This right here is an atmospheric river by definition. Now I know, and actually if you follow me on Facebook, you may have seen the video I posted yesterday kind of explaining atmospheric rivers. I feel every once in a while we need to do that because it is actually a real term, but unfortunately the media has hijacked it because it sounds dramatic. Atmospheric river, right? So they hijacked it and use it as a bit of a scare tactic and to kind of get your attention. But what I really like to stress is that the term atmospheric river is a tool for us as meteorologists to also help explain where the moisture source is coming from. Because atmospheric rivers, keep in mind, are not storms. It is a part of, is an ingredient of the storm. It's part of the forecast. So the reason it gets its name is because we have just a mass amounts of moisture in the upper levels of the atmosphere that are available. And it's coming from the tropics. Warm tropical air and moisture working its way up through the jet stream. And it can aim itself at different locations along the west coast, including Washington all the way down to Southern California. So you can see what's known as, you've probably heard this before, a garden hose or a fire hose aimed at a particular location, and it will bring a decent amount of rainfall, and in some cases a lot of rainfall. But see, the thing is, there are intensity levels of atmospheric rivers. There are 5 categories, and we're going to get into that here in just a bit. But there you can see this is what's called the water vapor image. What it does is the satellite is able to kind of pinpoint where the available moisture is in the atmosphere. So these greens here indicating a very saturated atmosphere, and there is all of that moisture, that water that is just streaming right into, at this point, the Pacific Northwest. But all of this will be shifting southward throughout the day today. By midday today, It's aimed right at Northern California, but then later this afternoon and evening, look where it goes. It heads down to the south. Now, a lot of times we talk about these atmospheric rivers lasting days on end. This is a very short-lived atmospheric river, folks. It's only going to be with us for about 12 hours, if that. And then you can see it continues to, will break off from that flow by the time we get into Monday with a drier day for Monday. And then we'll watch this right here coming into Tuesday. We'll get into that a little bit later. So remember I was talking about atmospheric rivers have different categories. Category 1 being the weakest, Category 5 being the strongest. Look where we are. We are basically within the Category 1 atmospheric river, being the weakest. Some outlying models want to bring it in barely into atmospheric river 2. All right, but this is a weak, for all intents and purposes, this is a very weak atmospheric river. So what does that mean? What do all these different categories mean? Well, an AR1 means it's primarily beneficial. That is, the rain we're getting is beneficial rainfall. No need to worry. It's just good old-fashioned rain that we need, okay? Then the hazards get more and more as you get to AR5. AR5 is basically saying instead of primarily beneficial rainfall, it's primarily hazardous rainfall, which typically means mudslides, debris flows, massive flooding, right? But we can get flooding with an AR2 and AR3, especially as we get into the AR3s. But we're nowhere near that, and we're barely in some of those outlying models at AR2. So what that means is, yeah, I mean, we're looking at some good rainfall. And again, for some reason, and maybe the National Weather Service allowed it to expire, but as of this morning, there was a flood advisory for western Del Norte, including Crescent City, and through the day today, the potential for flooding in low-lying and poor drainage areas. I'll have to double check that maybe when we're done to see if that's been allowed to expire. But usually if it expires, I get that alert, and I don't see it have expired. I suppose I could just real quickly check. Let's see if it's in there. Well, I'll be darned. It looks like some weird anomaly came out, and I don't see it in there. That is weird. It issued a flood advisory earlier this morning. It looks like it may have been canceled. I'm not sure. Maybe upon further look at the models, I don't know. But that being said, there was a flood advisory. We'll see. We'll see what happens. We do expect the most amount of rainfall to be in Del Norte County, which is why at some point there was that flood advisory. So could we see? Yeah, listen, even though they took it down, we can't rule it out. Because a lot of times you can get that steady rainfall, moderate to heavy rainfall, that could be making its way into Del Norte. Now, notice where the bullseye is, right? That's where most of the rainfall will be. And then we can see even parts of Humboldt, western Siskiyou, and even parts of Trinity County, less amounts of rainfall, but still decent rainfall, and then much, much less as you head off to the east. In fact, we may even see some shadowing. Now, we use the term shadowing. Why? Because it gets shadowed from the rain. Here's the mountains. So as the air flows up the mountains, it squeezes out all that moisture, and we get a lot of rainfall. And this is why we typically see the most amount of rain, because it's right there, right? And then what happens is the valley, right? So the winds go down the mountains, that air sinks, that does not support cloud and rain development. So the storms tend to weaken significantly. So yeah, a lot of times Redding, because it's so close to the mountains, tends to see more rain than places like Chico, because Chico is pretty far to the east of where those mountains are, so we tend to see less. However, that being said, I think Redding area could see upwards of about 1/10 of an inch of rainfall once all is said and done today, less as you head southward. And even though it's not showing any rainfall here, there may still be some sprinkles, light showers, but nothing significant. I need to get him out of here. Chase decided to kind of get into the computer. I don't know if he realized that or not. All right. There you go. All right. Anyway, so I was saying about 1/10 of an inch of rainfall for Redding, give or take. As you head southward, we are going to see less rainfall. And what you'll notice here, I think, places like Chico, other areas may see a brief light sprinkle or light shower, and maybe even some moderate rainfall. All right, and then of course you can see off to the east, we're just not seeing as much rainfall either. All right, so let's get you into it. Here you can see today, right? Not a lot of rainfall. Here's Tuesday's system. Colder air it's tapping into, and that's why the snow levels are expected to drop at that point. And then as we go into Wednesday, still some showers. Thursday, a bit of a break. Friday, probably a break through most of the day. And then by Saturday into Sunday, we've got more rain and much colder. In fact, I think snow levels eventually by next weekend could be down to about 2,000 to 3,000 feet. 2,000 possibly. We'll see. I mean, it's still a long way out. And the timing and the intensity of all this for next week, that's all going to change, folks. But we are seeing that trend, right? Off and on rain, off and on snow in the mountains. All right. Let's get you through Futurecast here. Here you go. Here's midday today. Now, this is our in-house forecast model, so it's a little different than the one we saw in Krueger's QuickCast. Main band of moisture right here. Heavier rainfall for central western Siskiyou, Del Norte, Humboldt, and Trinity County. That's midday. Everyone else, for the most part, is dry. Now, again, maybe a passing sprinkle, light shower for Redding. Then, by mid-afternoon, here's the main band of moisture pushing eastward. Already, at this point, though, we're beginning to see drier conditions for the north coast, including Del Norte County, but heavier rainfall in places out towards Siskiyou County. Not very heavy, though, for the valley. Now we take into 6 p.m. Here's the main band of moisture. But notice, again, that shadowing we're seeing. We're just not seeing as much rainfall in the valley, but some decent rain, but not a ton off to the east. Then by tonight, tomorrow morning, we are done with the rain, at least for now. Okay, there's a look at Monday. Dry conditions, right? Then we go into Tuesday. Now notice all the activity is coming from south to north. That's because the areal pressure is to our south. Now, typically, when you have these storm systems coming from the south, they're warmer. And it is going to be a warmer storm system. However, there will be some cold air in place that will kind of mix in with this, and that will allow our snow levels to drop down to somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000 feet. And we could see some pockets of heavier snow, especially into the eastern mountains around Lass and Plumas counties. Now, look at this. We may see a stray thunderstorm develop Tuesday afternoon as well. We'll have to watch for that potential. Now, we still have that same area of low pressure pumping in that moisture coming in from the south. Could see some more stray showers for the day on Wednesday, but it's beginning to taper off a bit as we go into Wednesday night and into Thursday. Again, timing, intensity of all this, it's going to change. But if you have outdoor plans Tuesday, Wednesday, you're going to want to keep it right here at Weather NorCal. Keep a close eye on things. Taking a look at your forecast rain totals. Again, these are going to change. These are estimates, but you get the idea. I would say for the valley, upwards of an inch, give or take, just depending on where you are. Otherwise, you're expecting less rainfall off to the east, much more off to the north and west. Now, Crescent City, I think you're probably going to see more than that just from today alone. Now, we look at the winter weather advisory that's been issued for tomorrow night through Wednesday morning, through Wednesday 4 p.m. Elevation is mainly above 5,000 feet, but as mentioned, they could drop down to as low as 4 to 5,000 feet. And that's going to probably mean some travel delays and concerns here, some of the higher mountain passes, that is at least. But look at this, through Wednesday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you could see a couple of inches of snow for places like Chester, Susanville, even Portola. Alturas not getting much of that. And Shingletown, eventually, not until next weekend though. And same thing for Weaverville, Havework. You may see some snow by next weekend as well. And of course, no snow for the valley. Sorry, I know some of you like to see that snow in the valley, but it's not going to happen. All right, take a look at this forecast snow totals for the Sierra. Boy, also a welcome sight. If you've done any skiing in Tahoe, you'll know that they are certainly hurting for snow as well. So this, we're talking several feet of snow, is a very good possibility. Just for Tuesday, Wednesday alone, that's not including what we're going to see possibly by next weekend as well. Climate Prediction Center, looks like we've got the wetter than normal conditions in the forecast. Now remember, several weeks ago we had talked about all of California was out of any kind of drought for the first time in like 25 years. That changed this week or last week. Look at right here. Del Norte County in particular is in the lowest category of just called dry when we look at the drought monitor. Now, there's a reason for that. Let's take a look at the rainfall we've been talking about this season. You may recall over the last several weeks I've been talking about, you know what, we're doing great for rain, we're doing great in the lake levels, it's the snowpack that's hurting the most. Well, now, due to all the lack of rain that we've seen for the last several weeks, many areas are now below 100%. Let's get this clock out of the way here. So there you can see, look at Crescent City, 76. So again, that's the reason why. In fact, all of these areas just a few weeks ago were all above 100% for the season. All right, but Crescent City has yet to get above 100% for the season, down to 76% right now. And then, but still, there are a couple places like Red Bluff and Mount Shasta and Alturas, still above normal for the season. And will probably stay that way as we go into the next several days because, yes, we've got more rain, we've got more snow entering the picture here. Now, again, we were talking about the lake levels. They are also still very healthy. They've been dropping, but still at least 118 to 132% of average. But it's the snowpack. This right here is what we've been talking about that we've been lacking, and we're still lacking. There it is. I mean, barely seeing, it's the whites you get into about 6 feet of snow, barely even seeing that. So you look at where the North Sierra is in Trinity, normal today at only 40%, Central Sierra 56%, and normal today 74% for the Southern Sierra. Southern Sierra has actually been doing better than the central and northern areas. But statewide average, only about 55% of average. We've got a long way to go. So yes, we've got snow coming, but it's not going to get us out of our snow drought, but it's going to give us more snow. Cooler than normal conditions are also expected for next week. You can clearly see that on our 10-day trend. 50s. We're actually where we should be for this time of the year, although a little bit cooler. Well, in fact, by next weekend, we're all dropping down to the low 50s for those daytime highs. So if you've been enjoying the 70s, I hope you enjoyed them because they're done. We're done with that. We're back to normal around here. Hey, let's talk about the winds too. We can't forget about that. A little gusty for those of you along the coast this morning, and then a little gusty by midday for some of the higher elevations, and maybe a little breezy at times for the valley. But tomorrow, even though the winds are dying down for the most part, there will be a bit of a north breeze for the valley as we take you into Monday afternoon. Taking a look at those wave heights, they are still a little high here for your Sunday. They may pretty much remain the same for your Monday. There's a small craft advisory for today. We may see another one for tonight going into tomorrow as well. All right, got a little button happy there. Let's see if we can get out of there. There we go. Take a look at your marine forecast. South winds at 20 to 25 knots. Your waves from the south at 7 feet at 6 seconds and from the west at 8 feet at about 12 seconds. All right, here is your neighborhood forecast, sponsored in part by Dignity Health. Taking a look at Trinity County, you got temperatures in the mid to upper 50s. There's the snow levels. Yeah, I'm talking about snow levels. I'm talking about chances for rain. This is finally where we should be around this time of the year, right? We should be talking about the rainfall. Temperatures mid-50s for the coast. We do have that rain Tuesday, Wednesday, a bit of a break Thursday, possibly through most of the day on Friday as well. 55 for Klamath today, 54 degrees for Orleans. It's going to be wet today for the North Coast, especially the first half of the day. And then by midday, you're seeing the heavier rainfall for Siskiyou County. And for Modoc County, you're going to be looking at early to mid-afternoon, some of the heavier rainfall hitting you. Snow levels eventually by Tuesday, Wednesday will be around 4,000, 4,500 feet and lower, possibly by next weekend. Eastern mountains, you're going to have to hold off until late afternoon, early evening before you really start seeing anything significant and any measurable rainfall for today. But otherwise, the valley to the south, you're going to have to hold off until probably late afternoon before you see at least a chance for some measurable rainfall. And some of you may not even see any measurable rainfall, maybe just trace amounts. But looking at your 7-day forecast for Chico, better chances for that rain come Tuesday, Wednesday, and then looks like a possibility for some more wet weather by next weekend. Up to the north, we're already seeing some light precipitation that we've seen this morning around the Redding area, Palo Cedro, Anderson, maybe even Cottonwood. That will then probably get a little bit heavier, especially later this afternoon. So your 7-day forecast for Redding, drying out for your Monday, and then more wet weather come Tuesday, Wednesday, and then it looks like we're going to see things tapering off a bit for Thursday and Friday. All right, let's take a look at some of the comments some of you have out there this morning and see what's going on. We have got a question coming in from Philip Smith saying, morning, what's next weekend look like in Mount Shasta? Well, if you're talking about Mount Shasta City, next weekend, there could be some snow up there. I've got snow levels down to about 3,000 feet at that point on Saturday. And of course, for the ski park will be looking at a lot of snow, hopefully, right? Keep in mind, we're going out just less than a week. We're going out, 8 days at this point for Saturday? No, not 8 days. 6 days. Is it 6 days? Yeah, 6 days. Math. It's early. But things may change. But as of right now, it looks like snow levels dropping Tuesday, Wednesday, and then even lower snow levels by Saturday. So that is awesome. We got Jeff Johnson say, well, good morning on a Sunday. Good morning to you as well. We've got Tanya saying, do you think springtime will be unseasonably warm when it decides to be a real spring? And tell Aiden and Sadie hey, and hope they are doing great. They are. They're both doing great. Aiden's doing great. It's been so fun. He's, now that he's got his license and a car, he's been going out with his friends and just kind of doing the typical high school teenager things. So I'm loving that. It's so much fun. But no, so to answer your question, do you think, listen, it has been, we got a bit of a false spring. We certainly felt that. Does that mean it's going to be even warmer for spring? Not necessarily. It's just something we'll have to keep watching, but let's just kind of embrace the fact that we're now back to where we should be. And let's not try to read into what we experienced over the last 2-3 weeks, right? Let's try to just enjoy the fact that we're going to get more rain, we're going to get more snow, and let's hope that that trend continues for the rest of the month and going into March. That's, we want to try to stay positive, right? Tim Moore, and not that you were being negative, Tony, you're just asking a simple question. Tim Moore saying, thanks, Mike Krueger. Weather NorCal for doing this on the weekend and Super Bowl Sunday. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Truth be told, I'm not into sports. I'm honestly probably not going to watch the game. I'm not going to pay attention to it. I'm not going to, it used to be even like sometimes even watch the commercials. It doesn't even seem like the commercials are that great anymore either. So I don't even, honestly, if you were to ask me right now who's playing, I couldn't tell you. I think I was talking to someone yesterday, a friend of mine. We were going for a really nice long hike in Clear Creek, actually. Very nice. Kind of discovered a new trail out there. It's kind of cool. But anyway, I was talking to him and I said, are the 49ers playing? He's like, no, 49ers are not playing in the Super Bowl. Several weeks ago, I was in Mount Shasta City. It was after my son and I had snowboarded and skied, and we were at a pizza place in Mount Shasta. And it was a Sunday, and there was a game, and the 49ers won that game, and everyone was super excited. It's like, oh, maybe they went to the Super Bowl, but apparently I was wrong. Shows you how much I'm into it. I try not to kid anybody. I just don't have a lot of interest in typical sports. Thank you for the weekend update. Hopefully Chase is well. He is. He's fine. We're having so he's got a remotely get into my computer. The software that we use has been flawless since he's been using it. It's been acting up here lately, and he had some issues. So this morning I had to fill in for him. Not a concern, not a big deal. I wasn't doing anything anyways. I was up. So he's fine. He's just fine. Tracy saying, good morning. Thanks, Mike Krueger. You absolutely are welcome. Thank you all. Well, you are the MVP for weather every day. Thank you, Tim. I appreciate that. And the thing is, this is not a big event happening today. I just thought, since some of you are paying attention, I want you to know that I'm here. I'm here for you. And especially when weather gets really serious, I'm going to be here. I'm going to be cutting in. I'm going to be on Roku, Amazon Fire Stick. I'm going to be on YouTube. Be everywhere, live, right? What do I always tell people? You can find me everywhere but the TV airwaves. Which this I find kind of interesting. So, many of you may know I got the wrap on my car. It says Weather NorCal in the works. 2 times. Now, it's been a very positive experience, by the way. It's kind of interesting. But, people honking, people waving, give me thumbs up. Hey, great, I love what you do, and all that. It's great. I've really enjoyed everyone, and even just a simple wave. I'm turning right, someone's turning left, and hey, people wave at me. I love it. It's great. This has happened to me 2 times in the last couple of weeks. I get out of my car, and someone say, "Hey, it's Mike Krueger." I'm like, "Yeah." They go, "Have you always had it on your car?" I said, "No, it's only been for a couple of weeks or over a month now." And they go, "Oh, I didn't even know you were still at the TV station." And they go, "What?" They thought, these two people that mentioned that, they thought that the Weather NorCal rap was for the TV station. Someone yesterday was like, have you always had that in your car? I'm like, no. They go, is that your daily driver? I'm like, yeah. And thinking I was still at the TV station. And so I was talking to this person yesterday about it. And I said, so you still think I'm at the TV station? He goes, yeah, I don't really watch TV. And I said, exactly. That's why I'm doing this. I've heard that comment so many times even before I left the TV station. I don't even watch TV. People are watching TV less and less. And people say they miss me on TV. I get that. You can watch me though. YouTube is so easy, folks. Even if you're not technically savvy, I'd be willing to bet that a majority of you, most of your TVs are smart TVs. And all of those smart TVs are going to have the YouTube app on them. End of story. That's all you need. If you got the YouTube app on your smart TV, you can watch me on your TV, whether on demand, my latest video forecast on YouTube, or you can watch a 24-hour streaming channel. Kind of cool. That's what I love about what I'm doing here. You can watch me everywhere. Right now, what I'm doing right here, live, right? If you're watching, say, on Facebook and you didn't know you could watch me anywhere else, you can. Right there in my app. You can watch it live. Here's the other thing. See your upper right-hand corner? Tap those two arrows. Now you're watching full screen, right? Right there from your phone, your app. If you have a tablet, it'll be on there as well. You can watch on weathernorcal.com. Let me show you. Let's pop it up. Let's pop up, oh, there it is. Pop up weathernorcal.com and I'll show you. It's as simple as that. I'm going to go ahead and go into links here. There we go. Usually when you load up the page, it takes a little bit of time, but there you can see where you can watch the 24-hour streaming channel right there on your computer. Or you can even watch weathernorcal.com from your phone. And if you look behind me here, I've got a TV. I've got a Roku remote, and I'm not gonna change it. You know, I could. Let me do that. I'm gonna do it right now. I'm gonna just show you. So if you have a Roku box, right? You're familiar with this screen right here? Look at this. See that? Weather NorCal. That's the app. You download the app. You click play. I'm going to turn the volume down, see if the volume comes up. Look. Right there. How cool is that? You can watch on Roku. Now the same thing if you have YouTube. You can, from Roku, you can watch on YouTube. Of course, there's a bit of a delay, and that's why you're seeing that. But I just love the fact that you can watch from anywhere. And including, you can see my bald spot there. But yeah, I mean, so a lot of different ways for you to watch. Oh, Tim Moore saying, Tom Skilling was my favorite from Chicago, but you're next. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Tom Skilling. I mean, to put me in the same sentence as Tom Skilling, I mean, that's certainly an honor. I believe, let's get that back up. I believe there have been some rumors that he is looking to do what I'm doing, as well as many other people in our national weather network. But more and more people are doing this. It's more and more common. So there you go. I'm just kind of babbling at this point. It's Sunday. I got nothing else going on, but I just figured, you know, let's talk about, for those of you who might be watching for the first time, what's going on. Yeah, let's take a look at, we're going to take a look at the camera out there in Mount Shasta. We're going to take a look at the two cameras that they have up there. I had mentioned earlier that they closed down today, partially probably because they don't have enough snow, but number two, I mean, look at that. That's what it looks like. Here's what I'm going to say about Mount Shasta Ski Park. They have done, I would say, a phenomenal job. I haven't been out there, but people have been out there skiing. They have been moving snow over the trails so they could just kind of extend the season. I think that's amazing. They've done an amazing job. Kudos to the staff. out at the Mount Shasta Ski Park. It's absolutely amazing that they've been able to really extend it for as long as they did. Now, you can't see it because the clouds have kind of rolled on in, but off the distance you were looking out at different ski from this Coyote Lift. There wasn't a lot of snow up there either. Now, what we're going to see here today, unfortunately, is rain on the ski park. So any snow that they do have at this point is most likely going to melt. But, as I mentioned earlier, there's snow in the forecast. So that is phenomenal. Let's take a look at camera right now in Trinidad. And there you can see we've got some wet pavement. They've been dealing with that wet weather here throughout the night. And we got a couple of other cameras I'm going to leave you with here. But we're going to call it a morning, folks. So glad you could join us here. Hopefully you learned something new about how to watch Weather NorCal. It's got so many different great opportunities for you. We're going to leave you with a couple of cameras here and kind of call it a day. I'm not quite sure who's going to be doing the noon and the 6 p.m. today. It may very well be me. We'll see if we can get Chase into the computer. If not, it'll be me. If not, if he can, great, it'll be him. In the meantime, have yourselves a great day. Have a great Sunday. If I don't see you at noon and 6 p.m. today, I'll see you tomorrow morning right here on Coffee with Krueger on all of our different great platforms, including Roku, Amazon Fire Stick, the free Weather NorCal app, the 24-hour streaming channel also on YouTube. I'm getting confused. There's so many. Again, other than the airwaves, you can find me. That's going to do it this morning. Have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow or today, depending on what goes on with Chase.